Not really.
Is that the only caffeine you drink?
Coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I try not to drink energy drinks too often. Every now and then, if yeah, they can be really bad. Last Thursday, for the first time in a while, I went and got a couple of energy drinks from those. I got a couple of those 16-ounce Red Bulls or whatever, and I drank those before class. But it was because I was really, really low on sleep. But actually, John, would you check the thermostat? It feels like the air kicked off.
Yeah, there you go.
There it goes. Never mind. All right.
It's being interactive.
Well, he was on before the class.
Was it? John Katz. All right. Where do I need to put this exercises?
Yeah.
Is this your example right here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a folder inside here. Okay. All right. We're gonna do something with some actual business rules and stuff like that today instead of just getters and setters. Don't forget all that stuff. It's important. But objects do more than just get and set values on themselves. So today we're gonna deal with bless you, with accounts. Okay? And so right off the bat, let's go ahead and make a class called account.rb. And I'm going to let you guys write this. Well, we're going to write it together, but yeah. It's so going to be you.
We haven't downloaded that.
Class.
Is everybody ready?
I thought you were waiting on us.
I am, but
time.
yeah.
Class.
I didn't update my dang keep pushing all my stuff. I'm just going to have to put it in class folder.
Everybody there now? We have a file account.rb. All right, so what's the first thing I need?
Class accounts.
Accounts?
Account, sorry.
Okay. We could make an account. This exercise is going to be a lot more complicated if we do. All right. So let's set up some rules basically. The scenario that I want is I want us to have a driver class, a main file, okay? And basically all I want it to do is instantiate two different accounts and transfer money from one account to another. All right? So fake money. But that being said, what do we need here? What does an account need? What does an account need to be able to do?
Depends on what you want the account to do.
We need
See,
to define.
Hmm?
We need to define what we want it to do.
Yeah, but what are the actions an account should be able to take, or what?
Take in money.
What's the interface that I care about? We just had to talk about a spy might have to spy on someone. What do I need an account object to be able to do?
Withdraw, deposit.
Okay, so it needs to be able to show how much, right? So show how much money is in the account. What's something else?
David, you had two of them.
Deposit, withdrawal.
Perfect. Okay. Some amount of money. Withdraw some amount of money. All right. So let's expand on these a little bit. We're going to build our requirements like proper programmers, okay? So when let's start with show how much money is in the account is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, what are the requirements that we have to have for this?
A balance, so we call it balance, defined balance.
We have a balance, okay? So,
Yeah, they ain't gonna put defined in any
so the account must have a balance, right? So we want to display that balance. Okay. What about our next requirement? We need to be able to deposit some money, some amount of money into the account, right? All right.
deposit slips.
So what are some rules we might have about that?
Bank account numbers to deposit.
Let's not take this exercise as far as account numbers yet.
Okay.
And remember, this is a single account we're talking about. So if I deposit some money into the account, I might need to take in a parameter. Is how much money is being added to the account, correct? All right, so it takes in one parameter, and that is the amount to be deposited. All right, what does it do with that amount?
Adds it to the balance.
Adds it to the balance. Okay. Anybody think of anything else for this one? That pretty well sums up what deposit does, right? All right. What about withdraw some amount of money? We need to be able to withdraw. What about that? Do we take in any arguments for withdrawal?
Taken into the parameters.
Subtracts from the balance.
Okay, we're takes in one parameter, the amount being withdrawn, right?
Subtracted from the current balance.
Subtracts the amount from the current balance. All right. Anything else?
You need to limit it to not more than the total balance.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. So we have to check to ensure that there are sufficient funds available. So if someone tries to withdraw $500 from an account that only has $250, we're not going to let them do that. All right. So we have two scenarios where feedback kind of matters to us, right? How do we do that? How do we tell someone operating on this object whether this operation succeeded or failed?
Use a true false.
Use a true false. Okay, so withdraw. It returns false for failure, true for success. Okay. And we'll say the same thing about deposit. I want to add one condition to deposit though. All right. Can anybody think of a current way that someone could abuse the current requirements that we have for an account?
Identity theft, like that. Someone you have to, the parameter is identity of the person who has the account.
No, without that, just what we have right now, just with the requirements that we have right now, there's a loophole. What if someone were to deposit a negative number? Or withdraw a negative number? That'd kind of be abusive, right? Now, I mean, we're not talking about end users who are at the ATM here. We're talking about programmers, but someone could intentionally damage the system with a virus by calling something like this, right? But it's just kind of bad design to leave holes like that. All right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to add another condition. And that's going to be that we ensure the amount is greater than 0. Because, well, let's make it to where they can't deposit nothing either. Saying they're depositing 0 is kind of silly. At the same time, I'm going to give the same requirement for withdrawal. We're going to ensure that the amount being withdrawn is greater than 0. Well, this is a very simple class with potentially one instance variable we've talked about, and we've got a lot of requirements there, so let's start filling some in. So we need a balance, right? Okay. When I instantiate an account, should a balance be nil?
No.
It should probably be 0, right?
Nil is nothing.
So let's make an initialize method. And I'm going to set an instance variable called balance equal to 0. What if I wanted to pass in a starting balance? Could I do that?
You could just change the 0 to a random number.
Okay, so if I had what's random accounts balance right there?
0.
Okay, so we said add a parameter to initialize, right?
You need a method to set it.
Well, not if I pass it in here. I could add it to the initializer up here, right? Now, if I say, okay, well, I want to start with 5,000 in this account. Okay? When I call new on account, this method's what's run. So if I require this parameter here, right, I can set balance equal to starting amount, and there we go. But I don't want to have to set the starting balance for every account. Only some accounts. Only when it's convenient for me. Otherwise, I want them to be 0.
Okay.
Now, this kind of sucks because if I try to just new up an account, it'll blow up. It won't let me instantiate one, right? So Ruby has ways of passing a default parameter. So I can say starting amount up here. Everybody see where my cursor is? And I can say starting amount is going to equal 0 by default.
So no space.
No space there. Yeah. Okay. So what that means is if I have random account and another account, because I didn't provide a variable here, by default, it's going to set starting amount equal to 0, and then my balance gets set equal to starting amount. Here, I'm passing in 5,000 for the starting amount. So, starting amount gets passed in, the default value doesn't apply, and balance is set to 5,000. This works for regular methods and for constructors, default parameters. Okay? There is one requirement to using them, and that is that you cannot have a required parameter follow an optional parameter in the argument list. So I can't say name. I can say name and starting account. I can't say name, starting amount, and account number. Okay? Because I can't distinguish starting amount from account number if they decide to leave starting amount out. I can reverse them and put starting amount equals 0 on the end, or I can make account number optional as well. But you can't alternate between optional and required arguments. Same rule applies for methods, okay? Alright, so now that we've got our balance, let's write our first method here. We want to show how much money is in the account, right? What should we call this?
Oh,
Check balance.
Okay. That's a good one. What do we want to return?
At balance.
Okay, there we go. Does that meet all the requirements for that method? Looks like it. Okay. So what about deposit now? We got a long list of requirements there. Where should we start? I mean, you can call it deposit.
He had already typed it.
I'd already typed it, so.
That doesn't
Why
count.
wouldn't we print the balance instead of just returning it?
Why what?
Why wouldn't we print the balance instead of just returning it?
Well, because if this were an actual application that we're using inside of like a web-based application or a desktop application, it doesn't do us, thank you for pointing that out, but it won't do that, because what good does printing something out to the console do to a user that's looking at a window? You know, we're going to be using this balance from somewhere else. This is us trying to get the balance out of the object so we can use it for something. It just so happens that the applications we're writing right now are console based. Alright, so what are the returns via this method? God dang it.
I wasn't gonna say anything this time.
I are speaketh the English. Alright, so deposit, what does it do?
Add deposit.
Tell me what I need to write. At deposit? No.
Oh, you don't want an instance. You want to receive a deposit.
This is how I deposit money into this account. What are my requirements? We'll start going down the list.
The amount that's going to be deposited.
All right. So that's going to be a parameter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just call it amount. And before we deal with the other with the other rules, let's highlight the core rule right here that we want to take care of. Adds the amount to the current balance.
Well, we made sure.
So what do we do? This one's easy.
Concatenate it with.
Oh no, we concatenate strings, good sir.
We're gonna add it, but that wasn't the word I was looking for.
Add it's a better word.
Alright.
All right, so we're gonna add it to the balance, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna set balance equal to the value of balance plus the amount.
So what is that called then? Is that just
Adding.
Alright, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, I'm serious. There's no weird technical term for it or anything like that. We're just doing arithmetic. Now you can write this. This is kind of an unfolded example. You can write this way. Those two lines are identical.
Oh.
All right. You can say balance plus equals the amount. That means I want to add amount to balance and set the value right here on the left side in balance. Okay. And I'm just going to leave that there. I'll get rid of this one. So.
But don't we have to tell what the amount is?
That's what this parameter is. Someone, somewhere, over the course of the application, is going to call deposit down here.
Okay.
Okay? So, somewhere in some application at some point, someone's going to go another account dot deposit 300. That 300 here, that's what amount is going to be. And then we're going to be adding that amount to our balance, which is either going to have a starting value, is going to be 0, or is going to have some value based on having withdrawals or deposits already made on it.
Was that a setter?
I wouldn't call not all methods fall under a category of getter or setter. Getters and setters typically are methods you literally use to retrieve or set data as plainly as possible, and they usually only affect the state of the object you're explicitly trying to change. This I would just call a regular method. This carries out business rules. This is business logic. So we've got our basic rule down, right? So what are some conditions now? Because this can fail, right?
We need to make sure it's greater than 0.
I need to make sure the amount is greater than 0. So how do I do that?
Greater than 0.
Greater than 0, okay.
No,
Well-
deposit, the amount equals
Yeah.
plus, no, good call. Just going with if.
What'd you say?
Yep.
If, okay. If what?
If amount is greater than 0, true.
Not yet. I only want to add to the balance if it's successful, right? So that's going to go inside my if block there. But you were right. Just that couldn't be that line because I need to return true, right?
Yes.
Meaning I need to either explicitly say return true, which would have caused this situation right here, which would have caused this never to run, because remember the method ends after you call return. If I'd left it true right here, well, that does nothing because it's not the last line of execution. So the only way to get around it would be to say that. Now it will be the last line of execution there for that case. All right. What's my other scenario for this method? I'm returning true if it's successful. What if it fails? What if amount's less than or equal to 0?
Then else.
Else.
No.
Else what?
No deposit.
Okay, so I'm not going to write the balance plus equals amount, but what do I do in here?
Oh, tell them to make a string saying warning.
Let's not handle what should be presented to the user at this low of a level.
Alright.
But I have to do something logical here. It's one of my requirements.
Else fails.
It returns false for failure, true for success. So I need to say false here so that false is returned, right?
You need to.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, nil is returned.
The requirements are this method has to return either true or false, right? So if we didn't have that there, it wouldn't make a deposit. It wouldn't mutate our balance, but it also wouldn't return false. So when you're calling it from some other place in your program, you wouldn't necessarily know that it failed unless you got that false back.
So what would probably happen is I would probably try to deposit some amount there, record whether it was successful, and something else in my application is going to depend on whether or not that's true or false to do some other logic. Because if it failed, I probably need to take some action there, right? If it's exceeded, then I probably need to continue through my normal operations. Either way, I need to know what happened. Okay, so that was this method. Now I'm going to show you a shorthand way of doing that. Much cleaner. Turns that method into 2 lines.
Whoa, that sounds pretty crazy.
How do we do it?
I think that's where you come in.
Actually, I lied. It'll be 3 lines, but I'm just curious if anybody's seen it in their out-of-class research or not yet. You can postfix a conditional, an if statement. So I can say return false if amount is less than or equal to 0. Otherwise, I'm going to continue doing what I was doing and return true. And the rest of this goes away. Now somebody explain to me how this works.
It's setting up a boolean to start at false.
Well,
unless you go greater than 0, or yeah.
it's evaluating the expression on the right side of the if first. Okay?
Oh,
It's saying I'm going to return false if the amount is less than or equal to 0. If I return false, explicitly return false, the method stops there, right?
mhm.
We talked about that last time. So the next lines of code don't even bother running. What's my only other case in this scenario if amount is not less than or equal to 0? Well, then amount is valid. I can do this operation. So balance, I need to add the amount to my balance, and then I just need to return true. A much cleaner representation of the rules, right? With simple if statements, you can do that. With more complex ones, you can't really do that all the time. All right. Now, before we move on to doing withdrawal, okay, and we already know what this method is going to be called. I'll go ahead and put it here, but we're not going to fill it in yet. Okay. This is a really, really small rule, okay? If amount is less than or equal to 0, okay? So I might leave it if this were real code. I might not, though. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in that day, how readable I want my code to be. But I could make a private method here. Okay. Everybody get that? what's something I could call this to check and see if my amount is less than or equal to 0?
Sorry, say that again.
I could say, so what's something I could call this method that's intuitive to someone reading it, that I'm checking to see if the amount I'm giving it is less than or equal to 0? Or the reciprocal. What if I want to check and see if an amount is valid? That might be a better one to do.
Check validity.
Check validity is a little bit vague, but I mean I might be able to see that. Check validity. What about how about positive amount? Okay, and I'm going to put a question mark on the end of this because I want the people calling it to know that it's going to return true or false. If it doesn't, it's going to coerce to true or false. All right, and I'm going to pass it the amount, and all I'm going to do is do this is amount greater than 0. Do I? Okay. So up here, we're going to call this to, we're going to change this call to positive amount question mark. But that's not right anymore, is it? I don't want to return if amount is positive, right? I want to return false if amount is 0 or negative, right? So I have two choices. I can use the not sign, right? So if it's not a positive amount, or this is a little bit more readable and this is something that Ruby gives you, it's the inverse of if, and that's unless. So you can say return false unless my amount is positive. Makes it pretty readable. Now if someone were to read this method, and this set of requirements were not here, without having to dig into too much detail, they'd be able to pretty easily discern what the business rules were. All right, we're not going to allow them to deposit if it's not a positive amount. Otherwise, we allocate the funds and return true.
You just have the question mark because you just have it defined down there under private as positive amount question mark?
Yeah, I could take the question mark off. If I did, I'd have to take it off down here too.
Yeah.
It's just part of the method
It's
name.
just part of the method name.
But in Ruby, this convention, the question mark on the end, does something. Remember I told you the exclamation mark convention didn't do anything to the method. In Ruby, the question mark does do something to the method. If you call a method with a question mark, even if nil were returned at the end of this, it would coerce it to a Boolean. Only a Boolean value can be returned from this method. It's either going to be true or it's going to be false. If nil somehow became the outcome, it would return false. Okay?
So that's when you need a definite true or false.
This is when you need a definite true or false. The reason I didn't do it with deposit and why I haven't done it with withdrawal is because we might not get to it today, but I want to visit a means of doing this without having to rely on a true or false return, but still knowing just enough about whether it succeeded or not. All right, so what's my withdrawal requirements?
Takes in one parameter. Require the amount to be greater than 0.
So I need to take in an amount just like before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What else do I need to do?
Return
You said return false. What? Unless.
Yeah, positive amount.
Okay.
Maybe the same, but minus equals.
Okay.
Look at you, buddy.
And then true at the end to denote success.
Yep.
All right. Why is that wrong?
Nice. I like it.
It's right, but we're missing something. We skipped a rule.
Oh,
Is what I meant to say.
Sufficient funds.
Check to ensure that there are sufficient funds available. So if I'm withdrawing an amount before I apply this change right here, I need to know whether or not that's going to put me below 0. If it takes me to 0, that's okay. If it takes me below 0, that's not okay. We're not going to let somebody overdraw. So what do I need to do?
Is there an is method or an is function? Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
What would that do?
If
No, I'm curious. What?
I'm like, is it true, as in for the positive amount, or amount?
Well,
able to
the
withdraw?
problem with this is if I did this right here, okay, and then I said, all right, well, if balance is greater than 0 still, or greater than or equal to 0, do something. Otherwise, hey, we went in the red. Balance is already set, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to fix it.
So you gotta do it before that.
So we need to check it before we assign it, right?
Okay.
So right here, what do I need to do here?
That was my imaginary is statement. Is balance true to be withdrawn?
Why do we have to have an imaginary statement? Why can't we write a real one?
Do return false.
Thanks, buddy.
No, I'm serious. Like
Well, that's what I meant. I'm trying
you're
to-
thinking of a method
Yeah.
that you want to carry out some function, right? That's a
Yes.
method. Let's write a method to do that. It can be a private method, maybe. That's what I did for positive amount. I said, okay, well, I need something that tells me whether or not this amount is positive. I'll write something that does that.
Okay, so we could do another private.
We could do another private method. Yeah, I wasn't jiving at you. I'm dead serious. What do we need to do here?
Again, we could do another private, make it defined as.
What is it what is the problem we're trying to solve here?
We're trying to make sure that there are sufficient funds.
If that,
So we need to check the balance and.
How about we make a method called and it takes in an amount and it tells us whether or not there are sufficient funds. It returns true or false.
I knew it was that simple, just getting it out.
It takes practice. It's okay.
now, could you have done return false if that balance minus equals amount is less than 0?
I'm sorry. Say that again so I can write it out and see it.
Return false
If
the line below is less than 0.
that
Would that calculate?
it would, but unfortunately it would set balance and then get out of the object, so we don't even have the chance to fix it. You see what I mean? It would evaluate, take away the amount, and then say, nope, I couldn't do it. But it took away the money anyway. That's the worst type of account ever.
Yeah.
It just took my money and didn't give it to me.
You know what? I'll just put
It's
this
in the
aside.
ether.
It's in the ether.
The void.
So if we're checking to see if sufficient funds are available, okay, and I actually kind of like saying it that way, sufficient funds available, okay, so what do I need to check here? I'm passing in the amount, right? I can make a new balance. It's a local variable, right? I don't have to set my real balance equal to it, right? So if my new balance is equal to balance minus the amount that I pass in here, I can easily return this Mac keyboard's killing me. Is this balance greater than or equal to 0? If it is, that means I have sufficient funds to do this withdrawal, right? Okay, so if I do that, I can say return false, what?
New balance. Unless new balance is, sorry, hold on, unless sufficient funds available.
Question mark.
And I pass the amount in too, right? Okay, now that I think that covers all of our requirements there, does it? See, we ensure the amount is greater than 0. Okay. Check to ensure there are sufficient funds. We subtract the amount from the current balance and we return true or false. That's a pretty solid method there, and it's 4 lines of code. That's not too shabby, right? Unless it'd be yeah, if there are not sufficient funds available, or false unless there are sufficient funds available. Everybody good with that?
And how are we passing the amount? By putting it in parentheses? I'm sorry. I'm just
It's okay. That part rolled off the screen right here. So the same way we call deposit. So I might check the success to see if I can withdraw 500. Okay, that 500 is what gets passed in as amount.
Oh, I didn't see you do the success thing. I guess I missed that.
That's okay. I was doing it for a quick example when John was talking.
So you put true under the withdrawal and stuff because balance minus equals amount returns a value.
It returns a number. Yeah.
And you want it to return a boolean.
Yep. Good catch. Last line of execution always returns. And like I said, the next time we talk about this example, we're going to move away from having to track, did it succeed, did it not succeed all the time. Because that gets frustrating too. Because sometimes you might need to return something from one of those methods that's not a Boolean value. And then you're just up a creek because you need to know whether it succeeded and you need something back from it. It's a pain.
So I guess okay. Why was the success? That's what we want to see, or that's what we're determining.
Okay, so let's go ahead and use this. Let's do this example now. So we've got this file written, right? Do y'all want me to leave the comments in here?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and make our main file now. We haven't done that yet. Okay. What's the first thing I need to do if I want to use account? There we go. Thank you very much. Okay. I want an account. I'll call it, let's call it source account. This will be the account we withdraw from. I'll just call it source. It's being redundant. So I'll call it the source, and I'm going to have a destination. We're going to withdraw from money from one and put it in the other. Okay? So how much money do we want him to start with? Can't be 0. We can't withdraw from that, right?
250.
Or we can double check the business rules. So let's say it's just an account, okay? If I don't provide it a starting amount, it's gonna start with 0, right? So I can say, all right, well, let's see if you're successful when I try to withdraw 100. Okay. It didn't succeed. In fact, let's do this. Let's print out the starting balance. What method did we write to do that? Check balance? Was that it? Yeah, wasn't that the method? That gave us back the balance, the current balance of the account?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is where we're using it to print out. It's the account class itself should never determine how to output information about itself. That should be decided by the application. So I get the information back, I choose to put it on the console. So there's our starting balance. Let's put the ending balance. I'll just call it again, check balance. Alright, so if I run that, starting with 0, withdrawal fails, ending with 0. Right? Let me put this here that way you can see. Oh shoot. Alright. Having to get tricky here.
Did you, on the count, did you delete the bottom?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, all that mess down here at the bottom, you mean? Below end? Yeah.
Right.
What did you do?
Can you scroll down?
The very bottom here, he was asking if that example code that I was writing, I got rid of all that sample code. That was just me explaining what a main class might do. Someone trying to interact with the object.
Can you scroll back up?
Uh-huh.
So you got rid of the random account?
Yes, all that stuff down at the bottom's gone. The end is the last line in the file.
Hoorah.
You go back to main.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, why'd you put that? Cracking the code. Oh, that tab button you showed me and get, that's a,
That's the terminal. The term, yeah. Yeah.
so it works in any term. Okay.
Any terminal. Any terminal that supports that functionality, yeah.
Can you go back to account RP?
Mm-hmm.
Ruby. Oh man, mine didn't work.
Anybody else having any problem getting that first bit to work?
I am as well.
No.
What should it
The output from running it should be starting balance 0, false, and 0. We're basically testing one of our first business rules there.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Users out here. Syntax error. It's got keywords. Oh, they have too many instances on this. Should you start from the top and try to from your inset?
It's like
No.
in main.
Yeah, I figured it something.
You don't need it in after the return?
Yeah.
False.
The only time you
Well,
get in
that
is
one.
on the.
Oh, it's because we were doing the if
Like,
statement. Oh, that's why I left it there. Very well.
The other one just needs to match what the file's called.
Mhm.
And that one goes with that one, and that one goes with that one. You gotta trace the source.
Yeah.
Sweet. Is that what we're looking for?
Negative 100.
Oh, I got a 0.
Oh.
I fixed it.
Fix it? Okay.
There's a line in the middle of one. This line,
Oh, good.
return sufficient funds, whatever. And then deposit. And the final method dash terminal on line 35.
H-U-C-C-E-E-D-D. Why does it say? H-U-C-C-E-E-D-D-E. Oh, shit. I don't know. I messed up my spelling.
Scroll up. Okay.
Do people get paid to just be editors of text?
Yeah.
Go back to
You can
the
get paid.
return.
You can be like a. What do they call them?
A proofreader?
Well, like. Where you transcription, where you do like you listen to court, I guess, and type it out or whatever. You get paid for that. Mm-hmm. But you can work from home.
You have
Yeah.
multiple files again because
But,
this one's uppercase.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I just meant for code, like,
Not as
do people,
lowercase.
is there somebody that's responsible, or you're responsible for your own code and you just,
Go over
Proofread
to,
it.
You're mainly responsible for your own code. I mean, typos
yeah.
don't.
Sorry,
Certain typos are never. The end user never sees them. You know, so you'll see a lot of typos in code.
Oh, okay.
If I'm in someone else's code base or my own and I see a typo, I'll fix it.
Go back.
When you're creating something for a client, is this kind of the process you go through?
You know, depending on the scale of the project, yeah. You normally gathering requirements can take months. It can take years. So if you have a huge project, you're not going to be writing code for quite a long time. But like for SkyCoach, for example, if my boss comes to me and says, "I want a new feature," you know, I'll design it a little bit, maybe draw some stuff up on the whiteboard, but I pretty quickly get into prototyping that feature. Just trying to get something, just bang something out that works, and then iterate and improve on that.
So what's like an example of that? Is that like a simple feature? Of course, football games, right?
Sure. So maybe maybe if we're talking about like a football game, I guess our product records each football play. So we have an object called football play. And that object has other objects that belong to it, like football play video, and football play image. But one example that I'm working on right now is when the play is over, we want to know how many yards were gained or lost on that play. And so we have to add a field to our football play object. We have to add a property called yards gained. And so that changes on our API that changes on the model on our clients. So on the phone, on the desktop, the user has to have a method to input that value after they record each play. So it's a tiny little change, right? But it has impact everywhere. Like Jeremiah, he'll have to add that to our API in the cloud and on our, we have 2 versions of our API.
API is what again?
API stands for Application Programming Interface. In this context, it means when I make a change to a play, I send my version of that play over the network to the server. The server would then take that information and save it to the database after performing certain business logic, like validation and just whatever needs to happen.
Yeah, it's something similar.
Is there a way to fill that,
like to bypass the input from the client?
Oh, that would be great.
somehow let the
Well, yeah, I mean, if you
measure it?
like if you had, on a football field, you've got like I said, here's the field, right? You've got lines, and you've got a marker on the sideline, and that's the chain gang, right? They're moving those, and so those are always there. So if you had, you've got a camera, right, that's shooting this video, and all this is in the field of view. Well, technically, you could use some image processing software that looks for this and looks for this, and tries to determine how many hash marks are in between those 2 things. How far, where's the ball? So how far to your first down, or just how far did you move the ball? You know what I mean? So, yes, I guess would be the answer to your question,
Like
but
there would be some intense
it'd be more than
math calculating
we're gonna do
involved.
at first.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about how you would get based on the angle and how far the ball is from the chains. And
Well, you wouldn't build that from scratch like we
Yeah.
talked about before. You don't reinvent the wheel.
You buy somebody else's imaging
Yeah, exactly.
software.
You find the best wheel possible that's already been made, and then you use that one.
Yeah.
You throw that in your cost.
He might have a problem with his installation if you want to look at that while I do this next part.
That's Ruby installation.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe you can see something I'm just missing. Alright, so is everybody else getting that when they run? Okay. So let's change this to where we give a starting balance to this guy now. So let's give 1,000 to the account when we start up.
Oh, I didn't see you put that last one. I didn't put this puts source ending balance. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. We add the 1,000. There we go. We've got a successful withdrawal going.
I'll just copy.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of these lines right here. Put some space in between them. That way it's easy to see on the board there. I'm going to rename this one Destination. And, right here. Alright. Now from the destination account, I don't want to withdraw, right? I want to deposit to it, correct? So now if I run, that's what I get. Oops, I left this. I'm sorry. That's a little confusing looking. Yeah, let's do that again. There. So we removed 100 from one, put 100 in the other. Now this is obviously a very flimsy application because we're not checking really the success of anything and letting that change the way our application behaves. All we're doing is capturing the success of it right now and printing out whether it succeeded or not to the console. That's not very useful. But using the mechanisms we have here, we could build something that if the withdrawal failed, don't deposit to the destination. You know, if the withdrawal succeeded, it should go ahead and try to deposit. If the amount you're trying to withdraw is negative, stop the whole train right there. You know, there's a lot of different things we could do with this.
I think you gotta change, did you change your destination dot deposit?
I did not.
Yeah. That's what I did too, so. See, we're helping each other, that's how we make stuff better.
That's right. It's called pair programming.
I'm gonna hit you up later when I have a question.
All right. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's it. Let me ask you, because just really quickly off topic, we're going on topic, profiles of yourself, not self, sorry, but yourself. If you're a troubleshooter, is coding a fun thing? Because I love troubleshooting, so that's why I'm asking. And somebody, this profile thing I took online, said, oh, you like to troubleshoot? You would be a good computer programmer.
Troubleshooting will be your entire day.
Cool.
I'm not messing with you. It's you're usually doing one of a few handful of things when you're a programmer. The one you're usually doing the least of is writing code that actually works. All right. Now this changes depending on what area you're writing in, but you might be writing experimental code to see if something works. You might be throwing it away at the end of the day. You might be trying to find a bug in the system. Something that either is a low-level problem on the framework that you're working with, or something that might have been a mistake accidentally introduced by another programmer on the team or yourself. You know, but you will spend a lot of time doing that, going, why is this happening? Because these little I forgot to change to destination dot deposit. That doesn't happen very often in the real world. It's not usually that quick to find, is what I mean to say. We still have the issues because we're not dealing with 2 files, we're dealing with 600. And the problem happens somewhere in there.
Wow. Gotcha.
600 one.
Do you feel that you've not accomplished anything sometimes at the end of the day?
Sometimes, and those are bad days because it's depressing.
Yeah, I mean, I can assume that.
Yeah, it's pretty dang depressing. But yeah, I've gone days before without having done anything productive because we had one really, and if I later on in the course you might understand what I mean by it. I'll go ahead and throw you the terminology though. But the very first year we launched Sky Coach, we just had our first football teams using the beta version of our application. Our API was up, it was running in the cloud. We had a cloud-based solution only. And The API was sturdy. It was fast. It was written in Rails. It was developed quickly, but it was developed well. We had unit tests for everything. But things still slip through the cracks sometimes. And so the code worked for us. Yeah, we could test it all day in the office and it'd be fine. But when everybody turned their accounts on and started using the applications on Friday night, we suddenly had a lot more traffic than we were used to having on the servers. And it got really slow. It went from responses coming back in 200 milliseconds per request to about 3 seconds per request, which was breaking. That was not a good user experience when the device makes 10 requests and each of the requests are taking that long to complete. And it took us 3 or 4 days to find one line of code that was causing it.
Oh my goodness.
And it was, I'll show you the difference. The difference was essentially
You remember what it was?
close. I'm just giving them. No, it was instead of so what was happening is the database was being pounded, because the difference between those two calls was that in the first one it would return plays, but when we serialized data out into the world it would retrieve the images and videos. Here I'm telling it to retrieve the plays along with the images and videos in one go. Because that wasn't there before, it'd retrieve the plays, and then when it got ready to ship stuff out, it'd go, I need the plays and videos, and it would go back and retrieve all of them one at a time. And so it was retrieving thousands of images and videos one at a time every time this request came in.
Still pretty fast.
And well, for a few seconds, yeah, okay, it sounds like it's going fast, but when you've got 1,000 requests every few seconds coming in, it hurts a lot. And so go ahead.
That's what it's supposed to have been?
That's what it was supposed to have been.
And
Yeah.
it was what? What did you say it looked like? Sorry, I'm just curious.
And this is roughly speaking. It's
Okay.
not that exactly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And so that less than one line of code nearly brought down the server.
Wow.
It was not fun. It was a needle in a haystack. But we found the problem, we fixed it, and we pushed it out before the next week. And then I spent the next 2 weeks rigorously optimizing the API. And now we can push, I don't remember how many concurrent users, but it's many thousands of requests per second. And usually respond to them all within 30 or 40 milliseconds. So
So how many
It makes a
lines of
difference when
code
I'm trying to
you
get a
got
play
to-
out.
we went through a lot of code to make that happen. Through a lot of optimizing. And
That
so
makes a huge difference when I'm the coach on the field trying to say, okay, oh, this is what I saw.
This play is not here yet.
Yeah.
Why is this play not here yet? We recorded it 30 seconds ago. Why is it not here yet? It's 30 seconds is a big deal on the sideline. I used to not think it was until I went to a game, and that's how we learned a little bit more about it. The development team took turns taking the application out to the field sometimes during games and scrimmages, and we gave it to the coaches and said, let me watch you use it. You know,
Were there other
The
apps like
LHS
Sky Coach that existed?
there still are. Right now we're probably considered one of the 2 front runners in the field nationally.
LHSAA had no issues with that?
No.
That's awesome.
So.
No, they have a governing body on top of them that they adopt their rules.
Okay.
So it's
Cool.
being
Like
utilized
a
in the NFL?
nationwide Mike?
It's not being utilized in the NFL right now, but the college ruling body, the NCAA, just overturned their rule saying that this kind of stuff was not allowed there. So now we're being sold at the college level. So well, we're already in LSU and in Florida, and our boss is trying to tie up the Southern Conference and the SEC right now. So
Well, the NFL's using their, and now man, Windows had a huge.
that little still shot application thing that they have on the sideline, yeah.
Y'all use, like, what's y'all's camera technology?
We actually don't have specific
They do
camera technology.
We allow users to, they can either record with an iPhone or an iPad, or if they have an existing camera, they can hook it up to a computer running our software.
So we have a lot of different apps. We have applications that run on servers. We have an application that is our main cloud API. We have an iOS app and 2 desktop applications. But they run side by side concurrently. You can't tell it's 2 separate ones. But
So it's up to them to get the input, is what you're saying. It's up to the teams or the coach or whomever, the school, to get the input.
we can use most types of cameras.
That's
If
awesome.
if it's your phone camera, if it's your iPad camera, if it's when we're testing, I just use my built-in laptop camera. So there's a lot of videos on my account of my face.
What about like a GoPro or something?
Huh?
What about like a GoPro?
Well, we only support
Wi-Fi.
well,
Well, if it's got HDMI out,
yeah, we support anything that can do HDMI out typically.
To a computer.
Yeah.
so we have a USB 3 frame grabber essentially. It takes HDMI in, and sends those frames over USB to our computer, and then we encode the video. It's pretty quick.
It's actually really quick.
It's not real time, but it's damn near. I mean, there's no real delay.
That's cool.
All right, I'm gonna do a Rails app. All right. Maybe. Do you have Rails on here?
I should.
Okay. Let's do.
I don't know what's going on with his man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at it. Let's make a contacts application.
Just do it over a tab. So that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're overlapping now, does it? All right. Oh God, you're gonna make me use Sublime for this, aren't you? All right. How do I open up?
You can
the,
just do SUBL on the command line, just
Well-
like you would use.
Okay, can I do it and give it a whole directory so it opens a?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it this way. That's fine. Where's the add folder or whatever? There we go. All right. All right. This is a standard Rails app. Okay. It starts with a lot of stuff. So
It's standard as in it's already loaded. It's like a gem.
it is a gem.
Woohoo!
And so I can start it up right now. And if we go to, there's our website that we're running off a local host right now. So I want to do something with that though. I want to, let's, this is like cheating. Yeah, well, we'll just do first name and last name. It's an easy first start. Oops. And go ahead and go to
Did everybody catch on that?
Sure did.
Yeah.
I got you.
It'll be on the test.
Somebody
This
got,
week's
That's right.
homework, Chris.
somebody got raked over the coals.
Do that, you have approximately 15 seconds.
This is slow because I'm not in my Vim. Well, I'm gonna have to set you up with Vim just so I can use that for these examples.
Yeah. And you get used to it anyway.
All right. Contacts. Okay. And let's do one other thing. Let's go ahead and let's create some data for that. So in here, and let's do this 10 times. And inside of our gem file, I'll go ahead and say okay. There's our application. So we've got a database, we have data in the database, and we've got a full CRUD stack.
Who knows what CRUD is?
That's a good
Ooh,
question.
create, read, usage.
Update,
Update,
destroy.
destroy. That's good. So we can create new ones. View our list. We can delete them. And it is persistent. I mean, we could shut down the application and restart it. It's got a real database backing it. So, you're going to learn to live in Rails. So, probably won't be doing much scaffolding though. So,
What was that? What's scaffolding?
scaffolding is what allowed me to build all of these pages and all that stuff ready to go without having to really do any coding.
Okay.
The lazy way, yeah. And you're very lucky if you ever get on an application where they go, hey, give me exactly this, and it's a CRUD stack. Most of the time that doesn't happen. But yeah, anyway, that's basically just how a Rails app works. You get it's a gem, you download, you install it, and when you create a project, you get this huge, massive folder structure that you slowly start to add code to. And like this is some of the default code for the controller here that runs contacts.
And all those the hashtag or pound signs, the comments.
Yeah.
Are those are there to just let you know what it's doing, kind of like what it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's not giving you hints on what to add or anything.
No. All the code for this stack has already been filled in.
Ah, okay. Well, I saw you do something besides add faker, and I thought you were. Never mind.
Oh, I modified a route. I told it where I wanted the right there.
Oh, okay.
I told it I wanted the contacts index page to be the home page, essentially.
What the hell is a JSON?
JSON?
JSON. Oh, we're gonna have fun.
Alright, cool.
Yeah, we're gonna spend a lot of time talking about JSON.
JSON.
Anyway, unless anybody's got any questions, I think that's the end of class today. Do we want to give them homework?
Do y'all want homework?
I'm like, if it was
Part two using the accessor. All right.
You want to wait until
Yeah, we can
next
wait.
time? All right, we'll wait until next time to do homework. And we'll do 2 big assignments for the weekend.
sounds fun.
Okay.
Would you gentlemen mind putting up those suggestions you were talking
Are those
about?
assignments gonna go over
Good.
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we're gonna add
Thursday?
some of that stuff.
Do I?
Those homework assignments will go over today and Thursday.
Yeah, we're gonna be continuously revisiting the big thing we talked about last week.
For Easter?
Oh yeah, for Easter.
Like an Easter theme.
Oh,
thing.
God. Easter's
It,
an important
it
time for
it's not gonna be too bad.
Okay.
Like we're not gonna have anybody write any Rails applications or anything. Most of the homework this coming weekend will probably be building on. I know one of them at least is going to be building on some stuff we've already given you.
Yeah, we're gonna build on the accounts. We're gonna do like a bank teller add on to that.
No, I think we're still up in the air about the other one. So
How
Alright,
about
software
alright, how
update,
about
am I
this?
allowed to do that?
You guys,
Oh, sorry.
I can't let you go without homework. Take the example we did in class with the animals and go ahead and create your zoo class. Zoo is going to have an array of animals, okay? So pretty much what your main class already had, I just want you to encapsulate that into a zoo class. And I'll put a more I'll put the actual assignment on Slack. And I'll have a few more details, but it'll be pretty simple.
man, you're ruthless.
Well, if you don't spend the time every day, then this stuff's gonna get lost in the ether, as y'all say.
In the
Yep.
who said in the ether? I heard that. Of course you did.
Does it exist?
Yeah.
Nah, it gets lost in the middle. You know the jar. You take a penny. Where's the jar?
No idea what you're
You need to have some type of.
I was going Office Space.
Oh, that's not where I was going. I was going Einstein.
For office space.
The light must have something to a medium to cross.
It's a spot.
Oh
on
my
Einstein.
God.
I don't know how. I think he's just more German, but no, that's not a German accent. I'll get to it.
You want to look at Ben's computer?
Yeah, I think we need to look at it.
This is very powerful.
Yeah, we need to look
Am
at
I allowed
that.
to update, gentlemen? That's what I'm trying to ask, because it says there's an update available for my computer.
Oh yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah.
I didn't want y'all thinking, oh, what you
What did you do?